Hello and welcome to a new morning briefing video presented by Stein Investments. In today's video, we'll talk about the trades I took yesterday, where I made the mistakes, and how I've been able to close the day in profit anyway. Then I'd like to present you some product improvements. And last but not least, I'd like to discuss the outlook for the morning briefing and its future structure. So stay tuned, and we'll start directly with the analysis of the euro yen I took in yesterday's morning briefing, where I was so happy to place my stop here right below the support level, but the trade itself was completely nuts, because what I completely oversaw was the point that there is no valid breakout setup at all. The yen remained strong, so euro yen went further down, as you can clearly see here. The trade was stopped out quickly. It already has been stopped out before I published the morning briefing, but I'm for full transparency. So in my opinion, we learn from mistakes. I do mistakes myself, and if we can analyze them together, we can both learn from it and start doing better. So you can clearly see the lines are completely messed up. I understand why I thought the euro will go further upwards and the yen might go back down, because the dominance of the mid and the long term was pretty clear. The point is that the yen remained strong short term, and so euro yen went down quickly and my trade was stopped out almost immediately. So this trade was nuts, and next time I better wait for these clean breakout setups here, and then I'm on the safe side, usually gaining profits, instead of this harakiri trade, which was in hindsight just stupid. But anyway, lesson learned. Let's have a look at the Euro USD. The Euro USD moved almost the same. Here we've seen a small breakout, as I said in yesterday's morning briefing, but there has been no dynamic yet. And what I completely oversaw as well was that there has been a producer price index publication later this day, which happened here, and the price was unable to move on to the upside up front is news. So this trade has been stopped out as well. It's been a better setup than the euro yen, but it was still a loss. Anyway, right after the news, there was a breakout setup here with a one-sided dynamic, because the US dollar has been below its long-term trend. And so I pulled the trigger and have been able to participate from this up move. And if I would have set a timer instead of doing other tasks, I would have been able to close this trade at the peak point. And so I missed the ideal exit, closed it a bit later. But anyway, it's been a profit and I'm happy about it. And along with this opportunity, which was then mainly caused by the US dollar weakness, I took a trade on US dollar CAD as well, which was a beautiful trade, but I closed it here as well at the end of the London session. And I took another one on the Aussie dollar against the US dollar. There it is. But here I was also not able to close it at the peak point here, which marks the close of the London session. And so I lost a bit of the profit, but it's been a profit anyway. Either way, lesson learned. Next time I'll stick with my breakout setups, because they are much better for profits than everything else. Let's move on to our volume power overview, and we can see there is some rising interest in the euro and the US dollar and the Canadian dollar and the Aussie dollar, and they are probably all related, mainly due to the drop in the US dollar here, because this is a side effect. If the volume in the dollar changes, as in this case, there is a rising interest in US dollar positions. People want to sell the US dollar against the others. due to the constellation that we have to trade pairs, if one trades the US dollar, there is also, of course, a trade in the Aussie dollar or the euro or whatever. And this causes several alerts of rising interests, which are not caused by these side currencies, but by this main trend here in the US dollar, for example. And this brings us to a product improvement I've coded yesterday for the customer alerts tool, because a customer told me this week that he gets too many of these volume alerts, and I had a closer look and said, yeah, you're right. We are just interested in those where a currency provides the most dominant change in the total volume and the most dominant change in the net long volume, and all others are just side notes. We just want to see what are the most extreme volume trends. And so I created a new filter option for the FX volume alerts, which are the basic ones are here. And now there is a filter by dominance where you can choose that either only the net long change has to be the maximum, or the total volume change has to be the maximum, or a combination of both has to provide the most dominant trend to get an alert for this specific currency. And this is awesome because it filters out all the noise and all the side trends you'll get usually up to version 1.23. Version 1.24 will come later today after the last tests, and customers will get an immediate notification via the MQL5 messaging system as soon as the new version is ready to download. And based on this filter, you would have got an alert here for the US dollar, which is here, the one with the highest total percentage change and the most extreme net volume change. And this confirms also the ongoing weakness we can see in the US dollar for the last few hours. And so the US dollar is definitely a short option today. Moving on to our currency overview, we can see that the Aussie dollar and the New Zealand dollar are pretty stable on the buy side, but without much dynamic. The Aussie dollar is pretty neutral here, and the New Zealand dollar provides at least a medium dynamic. Japanese yen is neutral, short and midterm, and a medium sell in the long-term trend. Swiss franc is clearly split. US dollar is clearly on the weak side, as already seen in the volume overview, with a very strong sell trend here on the mid and long term, but the short-term dynamic is missing, so probably not ideal to trade right now. The Canadian dollar is clearly falling with some good dynamic to the sell side. British pound is a bit undecided, and the euro as well. So the best option to trade right now is the Aussie dollar and the New Zealand dollar on the buy side against the US dollar on the sell side, and maybe the Canadian dollar, which is currently showing some interesting dynamic to the short side. So let's have a look at the corresponding charts, starting with Aussie dollar, US dollar. You see it's moved upwards, but it's Friday. You can see it's only 57% right now, and the dynamic is already decreasing. Here we have two support levels. This brings us to the next product improvement we've done in FX levels, where we can now see how old support or resistance level is, because in my opinion that's an information that's relevant, because I think the older an SR level is, the more relevant it might be, because it hasn't been traded recently, and so the chance for reversal is higher on an older level than on a pretty new one. Let's move on to the New Zealand dollar, US dollar. And we can see the situation is identical to the Aussie dollar. And if we check Aussie dollar against the Canadian, there is a bit more dynamic to see, but it's currently dealing with some heavy resistance clusters. And you can see there are a lot of it. And that's not surprising because the Aussie dollar and the Canadian dollar are usually correlated because they are both commodity related currencies, and so it's mostly unlikely to see big moves on this pair. And you can see it's definitely not advisable to trade it in this situation. We have a perfectly clean breakout setup, but I'm a bit worried that one of these will hold and the price drops to the downside. New Zealand dollar Canadian is pretty much the same. There is a bit more space left. If you want to risk it, you can trade it with a tight stop here and a profit target here, so you get at least a risk reward of 1-to-1. But yeah, I don't trade it, especially not on a Friday. Sometimes it's better to stay out and be happy with the profit you've got over the week and let it be good. Let's move on with our non-Forex symbols, and the Bitcoin is in a light uptrend here. Currently enough space to the next resistance level. Let's move on to oil. There it's the opposite. Oil is currently trending down a bit. The Dow Jones is clearly going to the downside here, at least short term, but please keep in mind this is only New York pre-market. We'll see how it goes once the New York session opened. And the German DAX had once more a wonderful easy scalping setup here at 635, which has been here. Perfect setup. It was not by time, but anyway, it hit the resistance level perfectly, then dropped down. So maybe there is another chance for another move to the upside later today. Now we are at the end of this morning briefing, and it was maybe the last one in this format because I have to be open with you. This content creation is extremely time consuming. For each of these 10 to 15 minutes clips, I need around 2 to 3 hours. Sure, because I'm a beginner in this area, and of course I'm getting better, but the point is these 2 to 3 hours daily are missing at other tasks I have to do as well. This means customer care, coding, research and development, and other tasks you have to do as an entrepreneur. So to become more efficient and get all of this in a better balance, I plan to reduce the frequency of publications maybe to 3 or 4 times a week to have a bit more spare time for other tasks. And secondly, to avoid boring you, I'd like to ask your feedback. I need to know what you are interested in. So please give us your feedback either right below this video or send me a message on MQL5 or Telegram or whatever you know me from. Tell me what you are interested in, what you want to know, so that I can tailor the video content to your needs, and so you get the most of it in a shorter period of time. Instead of watching 20 plus videos, I can produce more efficiently what you really want to know, what you are really interested in, and then we'll see how this morning briefing format can continue over time. Either way, I'm deeply thankful for all your great comments, your feedback, all the love you spent, and I'm happy to be able to do this work, and I'd love to continue, but I hope you'll understand that I have to put it in a better balance with my other tasks to keep up the high quality we are known for in the MQL market for more than a decade now. Thanks for watching. It's been a great pleasure. Wish you a great weekend. Have a great time. See you and bye bye.